Dr. Fred DiDomenico of Elite Coaching, Dr. Brian Capra of Genesis, and we're here. This is the first of many, several to come, podcasts of Freedom Chiropractic. And, we were talking one day, Brian, when we come from the place where, man, there's just so much stuff, right? There's so much BS, right? Here we have a message to change humanity. You deal with compliance and software and all the documentation, and how many people get so hung up. And I'm in communication, and we're principle based, and we just are doing this podcast to interview leaders throughout the profession that represent different areas of freedom, how you can elevate your mindset and consciousness to get above all the stuff that people mentally, emotionally get hung up on, and they forget about the number one most important thing, and that's humanity and more people. So we're doing this podcast consistently with great leaders. And we talked about my approach was that purpose and humanity, and you have a different role in this freedom. So you gave us a great analogy, Brian. And what's that freedom represent to you?
Well, first of all, I think I always, you and I get to travel the circuit. I know Joe is going to bring out in a second here too. We get to travel. We get to be around amazing thought leaders all the time. We get spoiled that way, where we're always around the people that are helping us keep our purpose and keep focus and all that. So one of the things with this is like, hey, not everybody can travel all the time. We have practices, we have families, we have businesses. So how do we get people fired up between those events? Keep your focus. Like you said, remove all the little mental subluxations between you and your purpose. And it always comes down to headspace for me. Even when I talk about technology and compliance and all that stuff, I see doctors focused on the little minutia of the buttons in the wrong place. Like, hey, dude, the thing totally frees up your life, totally frees you up from doing all this stuff that has nothing to do with getting in front of one more patient, freeing up your mind to focus on the things that matter most, your purpose, your family, your friends, your team. Stop doing things that have nothing to do, that are just preventing. The analogy I use all the time from a technology perspective is everybody knows with RAM, or maybe you don't know what it is, RAM. You have to, when you look at a computer, it should have a lot of RAM. The reason what RAM is how much processing power your computer has. Your computer is your brain. So if you have a lot of RAM, that means your computer can run a lot of programs at the same time. Where our brains are wired, we only have so much RAM. It's this much. Every time you allow one more little thing to occupy your RAM, that means it takes that much more focus and computing power away from the thing that you're meant to do. Save lives, have meaningful relationships, and that is also with your patients. It's your loved ones. It's your significant other, it's your children, it's your team. Those are the things that matter the most. Keeping focused and clear so that you can focus on those things. And those are the things, when you can do those things, you can save more lives and have really a real level of success. And when I say success, not just money, obviously, it's about fulfillment. That you're on purpose, that you're doing what you love, that your family, that your relationships are amazing, that you have that energy, that spare energy, that spare RAM, if you would, to really enjoy it all on top of it. So that's my RAM analogy, if you would.
There you go. Hey, we're really, sorry. Hey, so our first, what do they call that? What do they call it when they crack the champagne bottle over the boat? What's that? Inauguration?
Inauguration.
There you go. You got it, Bill. There he is. Godfather. Yeah, the Godfather.
It's so weird you say that. I have a bottle of champagne right here.
Do it.
Hey, for our inaugural podcast, we got Dr. Joe Borio, and I thought, other than being a great friend, an amazing leader and inspirer, you represent truly what it's like to build a impactful lifetime culture. Meaning, you have so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, more than thousands of lifetime patients, even hundreds that come in per day, let alone per week and per month, that is true freedom, man. You just show up and people show up. They think that way. They live that way. And when we wanted to start this out with purpose, and there was nobody, I thought, let's have Joe on here.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that. So here it is. Here we go.
Yeah, let's go.
Here's what I say. I find that, and Fred, I know you obviously coach, so you're teaching these guys that whole make believers, right? And you're so great at teaching docs how to be believers, right? Or how to create believers. So I start, we had one new person today. I start the relationship with a lifetime relationship. I don't start my relationship with a divorce. And I find that so many offices, they start the mindset, whether they were educated that way, whether they, I find most docs think everyone needs care for a lifetime or want to do that, but they start the relationship with the patient like, well, let's see what's going on now. Let's see if you have a chiropractic problem. Let's see if this is going to help you with your problem. Like, I don't get into any of that. I don't even talk symptoms on the first day. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, the bottom line is, what I do is like a dentist, right? So, what happens if you don't brush or floss your teeth? They're going to what? And they say rot. So what's going to hit your spine's the same way. So if you don't take care of your spine and tend after it, it's going to do like your teeth. What's going to happen? It's going to rot, right? So my job is to get it well. And then what's my job once I get you well? To keep you well. So I already start, literally, that is my day one, part of my day one script. Like that, I start with lifetime relationship. I don't start like, well, let me win them over. And then once they kind of like me and I kind of prove myself, then maybe I'll do this. And I know you don't either. And maybe I'll do that. So then what happens is you got a lot of docs that after 2 or 3 months, we're trying to justify or defend more care. To the patient, it doesn't understand because you started them off with an allopathic paradigm, even though your heart and your innate is saying, oh, no, they need this for a lifetime. So my attitude is I don't have to prove myself to anyone. Chiropractic doesn't have to prove itself to anyone. If you have a spine, it needs to be taken care of, and I'm the guy to do it. So, I mean, that's essentially where we started off with. And, I got Reggie up there, so I got Reggie and Dini and BJ and all my mentors up on the wall here and Sid. And the reality is that, they taught me that a subluxation is an abomination to the human potential. So the reality is, if it really is that, then why would I start off allopathically, and why would I start off with a conversation about an ailment or a short-term type of relationship? I'm going to lead them to a long-term with an analogy. And I feel like, hey, I know something that they don't know. So like your teacher in school teaches you calculus, and that's their responsibility because you don't know it. It doesn't make you stupid. You just don't know it. My job is, hey, listen, I know something you don't know. And man, if I could share this with you and teach you, it's my responsibility to do the best I can. That's going to allow you and your family to have an unbelievable life, or certainly a longer, better quality life. And that is my job. That's my role. So I start every relationship off with that mindset. So,
well, you said something so crucial because people want to talk about what's your thing today. And, Joe, we go through this. I mean, I've studied human behavior for 20 years. When you're looking at people for lifetime change, when you're talking about not chiropractic principle, but chiropractic as it deals with their problem today, they're buying a product or service.
Totally, yeah.
Now, a product or service is a tool. So if you have a screwdriver and you use a tool, what do you do when you screw the screw in? What do you do?
Well, I put the screwdriver away until I need it again.
And that's when people say, Doc, you're great. I'll come back when my back hurts.
Absolutely.
Where you're talking about chiropractic, but you're teaching them a life. You're not selling a product or service. Right. You're providing a life right out of the gate. And that's the freaking difference. And in human behavior too, when you associate an emotion with a physical condition, you're wiring their brain for short-term care, and then you try and teach them what they want. That's all the coach groups do. Give them what they need, then teach, or give them what they want, then teach them what they need.
Right.
It doesn't work. You're trying to neuroplastically rewire them.
Well, not only that, your whole life is worrying about new patients. The whole question, and it doesn't mean we should. I'm going to do a dinner talk, right? I haven't done a dinner talk in like 4 months or 5 months. So I'm going to go out, because my dad runs a restaurant. and he gives me a good deal. So I'm just...
He still makes you pay, though.
This is what he does, and it's great. It's really a good deal. All the food he can't sell during the week, he gives me a little discount. I tell everyone at the dinner, now listen, later on, if you're having a little digestive, that's because that chicken you had was right on the verge. It was right on the verge.
Joe, when did you, I don't know how long you've been in practice, but when did you make a switch, that mentality? The thing you just said in the beginning, like, hey, here's your spine. It's got to be taken care of. It's so simple. Drop the mic, you're done. Like that, then you have lifetime practice, right?
Yes.
And it's like the simplest things are just, people believe that it's that simple sometimes. When did you make that shift to that point in your practice?
I struggled in 2 years. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Was it day one you started there?
Yeah, I struggled for 2 years in practice, and then I met, just by happenstance, I met Reggie Gold, and then I listened to Reggie, and Reggie, I didn't really know what he was talking about, but it resonated with, my innate. It resonated with what I felt was right. You feel that physiology, this is right, it's congruent. And then it was really training with Reggie. I mean, Reggie was my coach. Sid Williams was my coach. I dealt with Fred Barge. I mean, I dealt with all those guys. And it was such an honor. I mean, I was on a phone call with Jim Sigafus I can't even imagine that now. I was on the phone with him every 2 weeks. I paid him, I think back then it was like $650 a month, which was, it was a lot of money in dollar terms, but, I was on the phone with him for like 3 years. So the reality is, being around those guys, right? What do? You elevate yourself to that standard of the people you're around, your peer group. And that's where it was. I mean, I call it the Borio big idea. I think if we can get people to understand the message that getting adjusted, going to chiropractor is good for you, that's all we got to get. It doesn't have to be better than medicine, because it's not better than medicine. It's not to replace medicine. Obviously, the health, like going to the gym isn't to replace medicine, but if you're in better shape, you're probably going to need less medicine, right? Nutrition isn't to replace medicine. It's basically if you eat better and you're healthier, you're not going to need as many drugs and chance there. So getting adjusted and having a healthy nervous system isn't to replace anything. It can't replace anything because there's nothing to replace it. So getting adjusted is good for you. I thought about that a long time ago. Like I was asking a lady, she said, "Oh, if you don't feel good, you got to take echinacea because it helps you with your cold." So I'm not questioning the validity of that, but I'm like, well, how does echinacea help you? She doesn't freaking know how echinacea helps you. She has no clue. She just believes that taking echinacea or St. John's wort helps with depression and anxiety. Like somebody thinks B12 is, and I'm not questioning that it does. My point is, they don't need to know the biomolecular level or proprioception or afferent and efferent. They just got to know, hey, listen, there's no health in crooked. That's what I tell people. There's no health in crooked, right? I mean, straighter, would you agree straighter's healthier than crooked? Yeah, so let's get you straighter. Why'd you get crooked? Because I haven't taken care of it. So let's take care of it so it doesn't get crooked again. I mean, how fucking complicated does it got to be? That's it.
Dude, that is brilliant. It's so funny. And again, I mean, I'm gonna give the technology on this because it's friggin' amazing. When our basic instinct is survival. So all these people want to explain to where patients, they're burning too much brain glucose, man. When they have to think to understand it is when they quit. You're actually triggering their survival mechanism. Right. And this is the beauty about you is health and crooked or straight. I mean, it's so freaking simple. They don't have to burn any brain glucose. It's so obvious. Like that is the power. I always say in Elite, the dumber you are, the more successful you'll be. And you're a master just being a dumbass.
Fred.
Brilliant.
That's why you're so successful, Joe.
I appreciate
there it is.
Yeah.
Now we know the secret. I could have put my finger on it for years. Now I got it. He's a dumbass.
Number one, most successful, principled, purpose-driven dumbass in the profession. That is an honor.
I think that's good. I'm thinking that's good.
That was good.
Hey,
you're right, Joe. You're
absolutely right. Today,
thanks for joining us today, Joe.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Dumbass.
Fred, know I'm big on questions. I mean, we got paisans on here. So, I did a call earlier, podcast at lunch, and, one of the things I always ask people is like, if you talk, and this, Fred, like, hey, if you're a true Italian and I say, hey, Fred, how you doing? You're going to say, what?
How you doing?
Right. Like, you don't answer a question. So what's going on with you? What's going on with you? How's your mother? How's your mother? So the reality is, if you take that in your practice and go, wait, I'm the teacher now, I'm not the student. I don't need to give the answer anymore. So if they ask me a question, hey, how much longer it's going to be till I feel better? My answer is, how much longer do you think it's going to be to feel better? Like, I'm literally just asking question after question after question, because guess what? They already know their brain tells their body what to do. They already know if their spine's crooked, it doesn't work better. And educate means to draw from. So they already know it. Just pull it out. Stop telling them what it is. They already know what it is. You just got to use an analogy to draw it from. So if you can put those two things together, you'll kick it.
Not only that, but when they answer, see, when you give them information, you give them the answer, they have no responsibility. There's no power to change with no responsibility.
Yeah.
When they answer, you're giving them power and responsibility to change your life.
Totally. 100%. So that's the day. We just ask questions all day. How you doing? Hey.
That's the funny thing is, obviously we've hung out a bunch. We had so many conversations, and this comes from your history, right? You say your dad.
Yeah.
Ask you like you'd ask a question, your dad would always ask a question back, right?
I always ask a question. That's right. They call it Socratic method. I call it Giuseppe Borio method. That's the method I got. Yeah. The only difference is my dad used an attitude adjustment if I got the answer wrong. It wasn't quite a spine adjustment. It was an open hand right here in the hairline, so it didn't leave a mark that you could see. So that's
yeah, nice. So anyway, man, this is Freedom Chiro, and when you're looking at lifetime members, we got the principle. So just give people, kind of the listeners, a feeling when you walk in your office and you're seeing hundreds a day. When you're looking at, there's literally hundreds a day, not a week, but a day that you've been seeing for years. And you have relationships like give them a feeling, if you can, or an experience of what that's like. So maybe they can feel that and, gain some conviction and principle and a mindset shift.
Sure. I'll tell you two things, Fred. One, and no one's ever asked you that, by the way, before. But number one, the ease of it. In other words, I think a lot of times, and I know I was that way years ago, when you go to the office, you feel like, wow, I'm going to it's going to be a lot of work. I got to be on my game because I got to answer all these questions. I got to make sure everything is the way it is. And I got to handle this. I got to worry about my clock. And in our practice, people aren't coming in, and I'm not doing mini exams and I'm not having all these questions with people about, when did it start? When did you start hurt? Whatever. People are literally coming in to get adjusted and they're just getting off the table. And I find that it's almost like you're, if you're at a family function where, like, say, Fred, you come in and I know you're laying down on the table. So I'm not even talking to you. I mean, if you're looking at me, I literally will walk in and go, why am I looking at your face? Like, why am I looking at your face right now, right? Because I'm not your dentist, right? I'm your chiropractor. Put your vertebrae up. So as I walk in and you're laying down, and then I could just I know,
yeah, that works in Syracuse, New York, right?
Put your vertebrae up.
So I'm like, hey, Brian, man, that lower right, that is up, and that goes your large intestine, goes your bladder. Let's get that corrected, and I'm kind of talking my way through the adjustment. It takes 30 seconds, and then I'm adjusting it upper part of the neck. Man, you're healthier. I'm healthier. I'm healthier because you're healthier, man. High five, and Nate's flowing, body's working better. I'll see you on Wednesday. I mean, and it's just that there's a rhythm, there's a flow. I don't feel pressure. I don't feel like I'm going to be put on the spot. I don't feel like they're going to ask me, oh, my back hurts. Can you look at my knee? Can you look at my ankle, my elbow, this, my ear, that? Like, I'm not getting that, or very rarely. 99% of it is a flow. And I feel very, it's funny, when I started practicing years ago, I'd see 20 people and I'd be like, holy shit, I'm exhausted by the end of the day. And now I'll see hundreds in a day and I come home and I'm fired up. That emotional drain is gone. And I know this, Fred, right? I'm congruent and I'm practicing congruent with my belief. I'm also practicing congruent with Nate. as innate flows through me. So it makes it a lot more fun, a lot more easy. I don't feel like I'm expending a lot of energy. And people will see it like, man, you're always positive. You're always in a good mood. You're always uplifted. They want to be around that. That's addictive, as it is with me. And that's the energy. That's the flow. I look forward to going to the office. You know, I don't look at the clock and go, Jesus, when's it going to be 6 o'clock? I want to go home. I mean, I'm there cranking till 6, and if somebody's coming in late and they're like, hey, geez, Doc, I'm a little late, I'm like, hey, Brian, you know what? It's an honor to even take care of you and your family. So if you run a little late, that's not a problem. I'll take care of you. I mean, it's $10 more. Obviously, it's $10 more. You can take care of that at the front, but that's the energy. That's the flow for me. So,
well, and you feel in your physiology, a sense of peace.
Yeah.
Your physiology is quiet, meaning there's not a bunch of stress. You don't have anxiety. And when you're in that state, you're actually channeling. It's like if you say universal energy and innate energy, you're actually channeling universal energy through you. Like you feel that you get into a healing zone.
Yes.
Because there's no anxiety. You're not thinking. It's not mind thought. It's all heart. When you're high-fiving them and saying, hey, your body's healing or whatever, you know, it's all heart. There's no thinking. There's no anxiety. There's a sense of peace in your body, and you're just moving, man. You're not thinking thoughts.
You know, one of the movies that really left a mark on me, and there's been several, but one was with Keanu, where he got to the end of the Matrix and he was down the hallway, and then he finally saw the Matrix, if you remember that movie, and he could see all the digitized, you know, imaging. Like he didn't see people or walls. He just saw the so-called Matrix. And not to sound like a freak, but literally when I'm in my office and I'm adjusting people, and it's from that movie directly, it's not something I came up with, but when I adjust people, I literally think like that visual idea that there's a matrix, that there's these green bits of data, the mental impulses going up and down the spine. And when I'm adjusting people, I'm literally having an effect on that matrix. Like when I adjust you, it changes the matrix. It changes that mental impulse. And I think that almost all day long. Like, I mean, it's such a habit now that when I'm walking in there, I don't see them necessarily, but I imagine in my brain when I adjust them that, you know, that data, that information, that life, that vital force that has an image in my brain from that movie literally flows through the body better. So that's what it's about for me. So,
Joe, how do you
call that the adjustment with the extra something?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
How are you able to, or maybe you can give a tip or a trick, if you would, and I hate to even ask you these types of questions, but I know my audience is going to start getting on these things. So they're asking compliance questions. They're asking, well, how do you do a re-exam and stay in that mindset? How do you do your notes and stay in that mindset? Or do you do it and you're able to switch in and out? What do you have any ideas or thoughts that you can share with people about that?
Yeah, no doubt. So on our checkups, we use a system, so it definitely gives us a message, right? So we get an alert. So I know, and you're there, Brian, that today's a checkup for you. So whether I got a text CA or whether I'm going to have to do the checkup myself, I adjust you first, and then I immediately say, hey, Brian, we have a quick checkup that we're going to do. And my checkup is so, in my view, closely related, almost identical to the adjustment, but it's almost like a verbal adjustment. In other words, when you get up, Brian, I'm going to say, okay, Brian, this is what we just did. This is what we just checked. Show me the concern. How does that affect the body? How long has it been there? How long is that going to take to correct? And obviously, once I get you well, what's my job? I mean, literally, the checkup I find is like a verbal aspect of the adjustment. You're just identifying what you adjusted and how it related to them. As far as notes go, I mean, your system's obviously the freaking best. So your system is easy because I'm listing. I got their x-rays up. I got their notes up. I can relate what I'm doing to that note. And, many times it's a salt. I find that if there's something that needs to be changed, I can do it right there if I have a moment. If not, I'm not going to put the note. I'm not going to salt it. I'll put a Post-it note in my pocket. That's what I do. I write it on a Post-it note, stick it in my pocket. I might have 20 at the end of a 15-minute shift, and then I could go to a computer, and then on the system, I can make that correction that notation in the file, and then they just copy the note. So that's how
right back into the matrix. Is that easy for you?
Back into the zone. I never leave the adjusting area. I have an area in the adjusting room that I can kind of hide because I want you to lay down. I don't want to have you come in and then maybe a couple minutes go by and there's somebody else. So I like them to lay down. And in the back, I have Stevenson's thesis. I have Giant versus Pygmy. I have a couple other books that I read. So they're right there on the podium. So I'm literally, if I have a few minutes down, I'll go in the back and I'm reading that just to get my head in the right spot and keep it there so that when I come back out, most docs, they run and do notes and they're running and doing this and they're running doing that. And I think it's a bad idea because it pulls you out of your system. So you really want to stay in the adjusting area. You want to keep your energy high and you want to, really protect the mindset, that zone that you got yourself into. And I find if I do it that way, I got the computer there, I can stay right in that zone the whole day long.
Yeah, that's key, and I remember, building a practice, I always say, is a mindset. Your spirit builds the practice and systems handle the flow. I remember, I haven't practiced in a while, but same thing on those busy afternoons or during those shifts. Everybody has down times, no matter what your volume is. There's certain times where there's nobody in there. And then, that's the thing is people get into other tasks, like what you say, and they break that flow. It's all about the mental, emotional, spiritual flow that builds a practice. I remember in the afternoon, it'd be a minute, and my office manager would say, "Hey, why don't you get this report done?" I'd be like, "No, I'm not touching anything." That's what I would do. And at first, she would get pissed the first couple times, and then they knew, don't even talk to me from 3:30 to 7.
Exactly right. It's fun. It's so funny you say that because that's what I do. Because sometimes, they're on a different shift in the back of the office and they're trying to get something done. And I literally go like this, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't ruin my mood right now. You're going to throw something that does it have to be dealt with right now? Did my son get into a car accident? No. Okay, then leave me alone because I don't even want to talk about that right now. It's funny because I know I caught myself doing this years ago. You get 10-minute downtime, right? So I'd go in the back and I'd start doing something and all of a sudden people would come in and I'm like, fuck. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm looking at them as an obligation when in reality I should look at them as a responsibility because I got my headspace in a different place. So I've learned there's a door in my office. It's highly protected. I am not allowed to cross that threshold during prime time. I'm only allowed to stay at my station, and therefore I don't get involved in anything else other than mindset and taking care of patients. So.
Well, not only that, but you say so many key things. You'll have a 10-minute break, but then you go on a task, and then all of a sudden you'll look up, and 25 minutes has gone by.
Right.
You change your tone. You cut off the flow.
Right, exactly.
Now you don't have a 10-minute break. You got a 30-minute break, and people are late for their appointments or they're calling and scheduling because you broke your flow.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's certainly how we do it. So,
guys, I got to bounce.
All right.
So I know I got to go a little early, but Joe, thank you so much for
Brian, great to see you.
Hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Every time I see you get more handsome. Are you eating? My mother would say, "Are you eating enough? Are you
drinking I drink my water. I get my adjustments. That's it. That's all you need, right?
Mention anything about meatballs?
What?
You didn't mention anything about meatballs.
I had some meatballs last night, as a matter of fact.
There you go. And that's a good boy.
It was my birthday, so I had 2 days of
birthday, man.
I'm 44.
All right, buona compleanno.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, nice.
So I ate lots of pasta and meatballs for 2 days.
All right, brother.
All right, guys. Love you guys. I'll see you soon, hopefully.
All right. So yeah, Joe, the brilliance, there's so much brilliance in what you're talking about. And this is the thing, we both coach. When people get stuck, it's because they're stuck in their mindset.
Right.
Systems can certainly stop that. But if you have the right mindset, if you don't have the right systems, then you have chaos. But if you're bored, It's because of your mindset. It's not if you're stuck at a level, it's because of your mindset.
Yeah, totally. And you'll hear this too, Fred, but a lot of times, and again, I say it out of respect, but people will come up and almost tell you, and I know you hear this, right? Well, you can't do that or you can't do that. That's their verbalization of their limitation. It's not my limitation, right? Because I'm already doing it. So when I hear that, part of me, I get sad for some people because for whatever reason, and there's multiple reasons for that, they've anchored themselves in some type of a limiting belief. And, that's difficult to break through. It's difficult sometimes, to coach them through that. And they need to, my example is always that, the average office, and you know this yourself, if you're using a shovel and all you know is how to use a shovel, the only way you could see more patients is to work harder with your shovel. And that's going to get exhausting. So then you're going to get burnt out and you're going to have to rest on your shovel for a while. And then in order for you to make more money or dig a bigger trench or adjust more people. But if somebody came in and said, hey, listen, put the freaking shovel down, dude, I got a backhoe over here and you don't even have to kill yourself. Learning a new way, letting those limiting beliefs go and adopting this new, wow, I can get in a backhoe. Holy shit, look how much more I can do now without nearly the effort. And that's really what I've learned myself, and I know you did too, right, in your practice, and that's what you coach, and that's what you teach. Hey, guys, I was there. This is what I learned. This is what I do. I'll take you by the hand, and I'll take you on a journey, and I'll get rid of that stress. I'll get rid of that anxiety. It's going to, in order to change, you got to change, but if you're willing to do some of that, man, I'll tell you, you can have a much better practice and a much better life by adopting some new ways to do it.
Right. So we don't want to go on and on forever because there's so much powerful stuff here that, people, you really need to watch this again because the brilliance that comes through simplicity, you can double your practice overnight with the things that have come from your heart, certainly your mind, but mostly your heart. So there's never one thing because growing your practice is always multiple things.
Yeah.
Yet there's people that will say, okay, how do I put this into action? What's probably the one or two or three might be a lot, but a couple things, maybe one with mindset, maybe systems, or a couple mindset things, gems that you could give people that can shift what they do as soon as this podcast ends and you go back to patients.
I'm gonna do a logistical one, and I'll do one because one thing's easy to bite into, and it's not a massive shift, though it's massive in your practice. If you could make a promise to yourself as a doc listening to this right now, if you could make one simple promise, and that is that you will never, ever, 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 and I'm not being a pain in the ass, ever, 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 say it 20 times, ever let somebody miss an adjustment without saying something. That one thing, heightens the value in you because you have to testify the value of it. Number two, it raises the value in their mind because they're realizing, wow, this guy or this woman is paying attention to me and this is important. Three, side door leads the back door. So once they start missing, if you're accommodating rather than leading them and educating and not holding them accountable, then that leads to the back door. So our simple way to do it is real simple, Fred. I adjust you first. I never say anything until I adjust you because you got to control your clock. And then I say, hey, Fred, as easy as this is, we can role play, Fred. Hey, Fred, I noticed you missed your adjustment on Wednesday. That's all you got to say. And you would say what to me if I said that?
Hey, Doc, sorry, I just got busy.
Yeah, Fred, I totally appreciate that. The biggest concern is, that lower part of your spine, right side, it gets shifted and that affects your bowel and bladder. And, it's something we got to stay on. Let me ask you real quick, Fred, do you see that? Is that a challenge for you in the future? Or does your Thursday at 3:00, is that still a good time? Do we need to change that time? Or is that a one-time thing? What do you think's going on right there, time-wise?
I just been busy at work. Lately. I'll try and be better.
Freddie, I'm not trying to reprimand you. Listen, let me ask you this. Do you want to come in earlier? Would it be better? How can I help you? Would it be better to come in earlier? Would it be better to come in later? You tell me what I can do to help you schedule-wise so we can make it as easy for you as we can.
Yeah, I think 10 in the morning would be better.
Well, why don't we do that? I'll switch you at 10. We use a text system. Text us back on that if there's a challenge, and then we'll check it over the next 3 weeks. Again, Fred, I just don't want to see you get behind in any correction and your nervous system getting sicker. Let me walk you up front. We're going to make sure we make up that adjustment you missed, and then we'll get you right back on track. All right, brother. Like if you can handle a missed adjustment on a regular basis, and it won't even go that far most of the time, I'm telling you, the change in it's a 10 to 20% bump with what you have right there with that conversation.
Yep, that's it, man. Yep, it's the same thing. And, addressing it means they're taking responsibility again, and we go back to human behavior. The important thing about this is if you don't, it's like a little kid. If you tell your kid, hey, you got to make your bed on Saturday morning every day before you go out and play. And then one day they say, Dad, I'm going out to my friend Jimmy's. I'm like, okay, see ya. And they didn't make their bed. What's the probability you think they're going to try it again tomorrow?
Right.
So when you look at it, every decision they make today sets a precedent for a future decision. So
totally
if it's today and you don't confront it, you want them to keep doing that.
Totally. And the other reality is you said holding them accountable, and you know this, Fred. I know this is where your head was already going, is you hold yourself accountable. Like, the reality is, there's a great line in neurology. It says, whatever you're doing in any given moment, you're modifying your brain to be better at it. So every time I don't say it, I'm getting better at not saying it. So guess what? They're going to walk all over you. And the next thing you know, you're trying to love them up and over-love them and try to use the wrong skill set or the wrong tools in order to share the value. They don't care. How many people have you had come in your office, from other docs to say, hey, who'd you used to see? I don't remember. He was a really nice guy. Yeah. I don't remember his name. Like, they're not going to do that in my office. You know what I mean? If they come see you, they're going to go, Borio, this is his office. This is how I adjust. Make sure you stay on track. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe they do. But the reality is no one's going to say I'm a nice guy and don't remember my name, because there's a level of conviction and responsibility and accountability that I have for myself to honor the principle that I'm sharing with other people. And the only way to do it is because, listen, they wouldn't be there sick and diseased if they knew what we knew. So they don't know what we know. So holy shit, you're the teacher and you got to hold them accountable.
That's it. And, like you say, they may not like you because they already love you. So I always say, when you give up the need to be liked and accepted, you gain the gift of being loved and respected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it right there. Think you're a coach, like your football coach. What a jerk he was, right? But now I think back, I'm like, holy shit, they were some of the most beautiful people and beautiful mentors in my life, right? Because they held me accountable. They didn't give a shit if I liked them or not. Run, do this, do the push-ups, do the crab call, do that, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you're sweating and you're miserable and all that. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, those are some of the strongest lessons and mentors of my life. So being that person is in their life,
our responsibility.
Huge.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thank you. I mean, I think that everything you said, the brilliance is in the simplicity, and with the theme of Freedom Chiropractic, the simplicity and what you're talking about is freedom, and responsibility is freedom. It may feel like a chore at first, but then, when you do something new, it may not be comfortable, but their responsibility will be proportional to the level of responsibility that you take. And that becomes freedom, because you create amazing, not just chiropractic patients, but chiropractic leaders for life. So, hey, thanks for sharing that.
Fred, one last thing I just want to throw in, and that is that, the respect that I have for you. We're two guys that are chiropractors, we're coaches, we run our own organization. We certainly want to help as many people as we can with what we do and what we know. And the mere fact that we have the ability to have a relationship and a friendship and work together to spread that mission. If we could get so many other of our leaders in this profession to feel the same way and do the same thing, imagine how profound what we do would be in the profession. There's way too much division. There's way too much jealousy and envy and insecurity and apathy. And I'm not saying that out of judgment to the docs. We need to say, listen, you're my sister, you're my brother, and you're a chiropractor, and you may do things a little different, but I love you, and let's help each other out so that we can help this profession. And to have that relationship with you is very meaningful to me, for sure, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, brother. Likewise, man. Yeah, we knew that from the first time our eyes met. And we broke bread together.
That's right, baby. I wish you did it for me, baby. I wish you did it for me.
All right, pal. Thanks a ton, man. Love you.
Yeah.
And, get ready, gang, for more Freedom Chiro podcast coming.